Hey friends, and welcome to the Oh What a Beautiful Morning video series. It is Wednesday, October 10th. Right now it's midnight when I'm recording this. And actually, there are so many people milling around outside my window right now. It's crazy. I just got home about an hour ago from a date. And, yeah. It's late. So let's jump right into Psalm 95:8. If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts. So I think we've all heard this verse before, if not in word, then in song. But this is one of those, Dynamite comes in small packages verse. It's really short, but it packs a punch. If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts. And, we've all been there. I think that a lot of times we will feel, the promptings or a nudge from the Holy Spirit to do something. And it's like, I'm not ready to do that yet. I don't want to do that. That's going to disrupt my life. I don't feel qualified to do this. We can create, roadblocks to delay his prompting. Because let's face it, God calls us to do hard things. If God is calling us to do something, it's not going to be like, hey, I want you to go take a bubble bath and then pet puppies. He's calling you to go out on a limb for him. He calls us to do hard things because we can't change things. We can't change the world around us by, going with the flow. Most of the time he's asking us to be like a salmon and swim upstream. That is the life of a Christian, is to live a life that is following Christ, and that is countercultural. Point blank. It's a hard call. But I think what we have to remember is that when God calls us, that is such a huge honor. And he's calling each and every single one of us. He has a purpose for you, for me. And, we have to, be listening, truly be listening. We have to, create time, quiet time in our lives to hear his, gentle whisper and prompting. But then we have to be open. I think one of the biggest things that stands in our way of, following and saying yes to his call is fear. Do I have what it takes? Can I physically do this? Am I able to? And one of the coolest things I've ever heard in my life was God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. And, Moses was a stutterer. All of these, great biblical characters, they all had obstacles that they thought were insurmountable to doing God's will and answering his call. And yet God showed up big time for every single one of them and gave them exactly what they needed and more to live out his call and his purpose. And that's going to be just the same with you and I. So let's just remember that. So as we go forth today, let's just be really listening for his voice, discerning his plan for our lives is hard. I'm still trying to do that with my own life. So let's just really pray about that, about discerning his voice and hearing it. But then also to not have a hardened heart when we hear it, and to be open to the possibilities of what living out his plan could look like. You know, they don't call it the great adventure for nothing. You know, God is going to take us on incredible journeys, and always for good for him. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.